Alright everybody, now it's time for the Battle of Red Mountain. The Battle of Red Mountain and the rise and fall of the Tribunal. The following is a transcript of the words of Lord Vivek, addressed to a dissident priest, Malar Amayan, who confronted Vivek with the Ashlander traditions surrounding the Battle of Red Mountain, and with prophecies of the Neravine, and to unnamed magistrates of the Inquisition, who joined Vivek in interrogating dissident priests. Who can clearly recall the events of the distant past? But you have asked me to tell you, in my own words, the events surrounding the Battle of Red Mountain, the birth of the Tribunal, and the prophecies of a Nerevar reborn. Here's what I can tell you. When the Chimer first abandoned the herds and tents of their nomadic ancestors, and built the first great houses, we loved the Daedra, and worshipped them as gods. But our brethren, the Drumer, scorned the Daedra, and mocked our foolish rituals, and preferred instead their gods of reason and logic. So the Chimer and Drumer were always at bitter war, until the Nords came and invaded Razdain. Only did the Chimer and Drumer put away their strife and join together to cast out the invaders. Once the Nords were driven out, General Nerevar of the Chimer and General Dumak of the Drumer, who had come to love and respect one another, resolved to make peace between our people. In that time I was but a junior counselor to Nerevar, and Nerevar's queen Alamexia and his other favorite counselor, Sophisil, always doubted that such a peace might long survive, given the bitter dispute between the Chimer and Drumer. But by negotiation and compromise, Nerevar and Dumak somehow managed to preserve a fragile peace. But when Dagofur, Lord of House Dagoth, entrusted as a friend by both Nerevar and the Drumer, brought us proof that the High Engineer Krognak of the Drumer discovered the heart of Lorkhan, and that he had learned how to tap its powers and was building a new god, a mockery of Chimer faith and a fearsome weapon. We all urged Nerevar to make war on the dwarves, and to destroy this threat to the Chimer belief and security. Nerevar was troubled. He went to Dumak and asked if what Dagofur said was true, but Krognak took great offense and asked whom Nerevar thought he was, that he might presume to judge the affairs of the Drumer. Nerevar was further troubled, and made pilgrimage to Holomeum, the sacred temple of Azura. And Azura confirmed that all of Dagofur was said was indeed true, that the creation of a new god of the Drumer should be prevented at all costs. When Nerevar came back and told us what the goddess has said, we felt our judgments confirmed, and again counseled him to war, chiding Nerevar for his naive trust and friendship, and reminding Nerevar of his duty to protect the faith and security of the Chimer against the impiety and dangerous abuses of the Drumer. Nerevar went back to Vardenfell one last time, hoping that negotiation and compromise might once again preserve the peace. But this time, the friends Nerevar and Duma quarreled bitterly, and as a result, the Chimer and Drumer went to war. The Drumer were well defended by their fortress at Red Mountain. But Nerevar's cunning drew most of the Dumak's armies out into the field and pinned them there, while Nerevar, Dagofur, and a small group of companions could make their way into the heart chamber by secret means. There, Nerevar, the Chimer King, met Dumak the Dwarf King, and they both collapsed from grievous wounds and draining magic. With Dumak fallen and threatened by Dagofur and others, Krognak turned his tools upon the heart, and Nerevar said he saw Krognak and all his Drumer companions at once disappear from the world. In that instance, Drumer everywhere disappeared without a trace. But Krognak's tools remained, and Dagofur seized them, and he carried them to Nerevar, saying, "That fool Krognak has destroyed his own people with these things. We should destroy them right away, lest they fall into the wrong hands." But Nerevar was resolved to confer with his queen and his generals, who had foreseen that this war would come, and whose counsel he would not ignore again. "I will ask our tribunal what we shall do with them, for they have wisdom in the past that I had not. Stay here, loyal Dagofur, until I return." So Nerevar told Dagofur to protect the tools in the heart chamber until he returned. Then Nerevar was carried to us, where we waited on the slopes of Red Mountain, and he told us all that had transpired under Red Mountain. What Nerevar has said was that the Drumer had used special tools to turn their people into immortals, and only that the heart of Lorkhan had held wondrous powers. Only latter did we hear from other present that Dagofur had thought the Drumer destroyed, not made immortal, and no one knows for sure what really happened there. Okay, after hearing Nerevar, we gave our counsel as he requested, proposing we should preserve these tools and trust for their welfare of the Chimera people. And who knows, perhaps the Drummer are not gone forever, but merely transported to some distant realm, from which they may someday return to threaten our security once again. Therefore, we need to keep these tools, to study them and their principles, so that we may be safe in future generations. And though Nerevar voiced his grave misgivings, he was willing to be ruled by our council, under one condition, that we all together should swear a solemn oath upon Azura that the tools would never be used in the profane manner that the Drummer have intended. We all readily agreed and swore solemn oaths at Nerevar's dictation. Then, we went with Nerevar back into Red Mountain and met with Dagafur. Dagafur refused to deliver the tools to us, saying they were dangerous and we could not touch them. Dagafur seemed to be irrational, insisting that only he could be trusted with the tools, and then we guessed that he had somehow been affected by his handling of the tools. But now, I feel sure that he had privately learned the powers of the tools, and had in some confused way decided he must have them for himself. Then Nerevar and our guard resorted to force to secure the tools. Somehow, Dagafur and his retainers escaped, but we gained the tools, and delivered them to Sophisil for study and safekeeping. For some years, we kept the oaths we swore to Azura with Nerevar, but during that time, in secret, Sophisil must have studied the tools and divined their mysteries. And at last, he came to us with a vision of a new world of peace, with justice and honor for nobles, and health and prosperity for the commoners. With the tribunal as immortal patrons and guides, and dictating ourselves to this vision of a better world, we made a pilgrimage to Red Mountain, and transformed ourselves with the power of Kragnak's tools. And no sooner than we had completed our rituals and begun to discover our newfound powers, the Daedra Lord Azura appeared and cursed us for our forsworn oaths. By her powers of prophecy, she assured us that her champion, Nerevar, true to his oath, will return to punish us for our perfidy, and to make sure such profane knowledge might never again be used to mock and defy the will of the gods. But Sophisil said to her, "The old gods are cruel and arbitrary, and distant from the hopes and fears of Myrrh. Your age is past. We are the new gods, born of the flesh and wise in caring of the needs of our people. Spare us your threats and chiding. Inconsistent spirit, we are bold and fresh, and will not fear you." And then, at that moment, all Chimer were changed into Dunmer, and our skins turned ashen, and our eyes into fire. Of course, we only knew at the time that this had happened to us. But Azura said, "This is not my act, but yours. You have chosen your fate, and the fate of your people, and all the Dunmers shall share your fate. From now to the end of time, you think yourselves gods, but you are blind, and all is darkness." And Azura left us alone, in darkness, and we were all afraid. But we put on brave faces, and went forth from Red Mountain to build a new world of our dreams. And the new world we shaped was glorious and generous, and the worship of the Dunmer fervent and grateful. The Dunmer were at first afraid of their new faces, but Sophisil spoke to them, saying that it was not a curse but a blessing, a sign of their changed natures, a sign of the special favor they might enjoy as new Myrrh, and no longer barbarians trembling before the ghosts and spirits, but civilized Myrrh, speaking directly to their immortal friends and patrons, the three faces of the tribunal. We were all inspired by Sophisil's speech and vision, and took heart. And over time, we crafted the customs and institutions of a just and honorable society. In the lands of Resedian, new millennia of peace, equity, and prosperity, unknown to other savage races. But beneath Red Mountain, Dagafur has survived. And even as the light of our bold new world shined even more brightly, beneath Red Mountain, the darkness gathered. A darkness that was close kin to the bright light that Sophisil coaxed from the heart of Lorkhan with the tools. As the darkness grew, we fought it, and crafted walls to confine it, but we never could destroy it. For the source of the darkness was the same source as the source of our own divine inspiration. And in these latter days of Morrowind, reduced to a subjugated province of the Western Empire, as the glory of the temple fades and the dark tide rises from the Red Mountain, we are reminded of Azura and her promised champion's return. We have waited, blind and in darkness, mere shadows, drained of our ardent vision, in shame of our folly, in fear of our judgment, and in hopes of our deliverance. We do not know if the Outlander claiming to fill the prophecies of Nerevar is our old companion, Nerevar reborn, or a pawn, the Emperor, or a catspaw of Azura, or some simple twist of fate. But we insist you adhere to temple doctrine and conform to the strictures dividing the Hagorath from the Agrafah, and that you not speak that which must not be spoken openly. Act as a dutiful priest should, in accordance with your vows of obedience to the canons and archcanons, and all will be forgiven. Defy me, and you will know what it is to stand against a god. Alright, that was the Battle of Red Mountain. That was his version of the story. And we will read the other version, which should be Nerevar at Red Mountain. So, thank you for watching, and now for the next part.